That's the Zakatul Fitra for this year. Please make sure you pay that before Salatul Eid, right? So the requirement is you take it out or you put it aside and you make the payment before the Salat of Eid. So $15 per person. And then, inshallah, hopefully you've all seen the flyers about the Eid prayers for Yasin. So Eid prayers will be taking place at the Yorba Regional Park. And the time will be at 9 a.m. So they'll start promptly at 9 a.m. And then inshallah we'll have a potluck breakfast, and then there'll be a lot of sports and games and different festivities. So please come inshallah on Wednesday and join us for the Eid prayers inshallah. And then the one more, so as you all might have heard, there's going to be a solar eclipse tomorrow. It starts at around 10, just a few minutes after 10 o'clock. It's a solar eclipse that's going to occur. You know, we're in the region where we'll see it as a partial, but it is a total solar eclipse. So inshallah, we're required to pray Salatul Ayat. So if you can remember to perform Salatul Ayat during the eclipse, it starts at around 10 a.m. Monday, which is tomorrow, April 8th. So inshallah, you remember to do that. It's partial here in California, but it's actually total. It's a total solar eclipse, in general. But yeah, over here it's going to look like a partial eclipse. And then last but not least, we were asked to make a quick announcement about there's going to be an Eid picnic hosted by Shia Muslim Council. That's going to be on April 20th, inshallah, and that's going to happen at the. I believe it's at the William Mason Park in Irvine. So April 20th, Shia Muslim Council is hosting an Eid picnic. I think that's a Saturday, and it's going to be from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And mashallah, this year the theme for the picnic that they're having is United We Stand with Gaza, and all the proceeds from the picnic, they're going to have food vendors and other vendors. All those proceeds, inshallah, they're going to be donating it to Shia organizations that are supporting the cause of our brothers and sisters in Palestine. So inshallah, if you can remember that and attend, that would be also greatly appreciated. And then inshallah with that, please join me in welcoming our dear speaker for tonight, Sayyid Abbas Razavian, with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبو القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. May Allah accept all of your a'mal, and hopefully these last few nights of Shahr Ramadan will still, for us, be a great opportunity to be freed from the hellfire, to have our prayers heard. Many people, they ask me, they have du'as that need to be answered. So these few nights are very vital, are important for us. So make sure we still appreciate and take advantage of the last part of Shahr Ramadan, which actually a lot of freeing from the hellfire happens then. We're going through Surah Al-Anbiya, and we're at verse 95. And the verse that we'll read is this: وَحَرَامٌ عَلَى غَرْيَةٍ أَهْلَكْنَاهَا أَنَّهُمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ. And there is prohibition upon the people of a city which we have destroyed, that they will ever return. حتى إذا فتحت يأجوج ومأجوج وهم من كل هدب ينسلون. Until when the dam of Gog and Magog has been opened, and they from every elevation descend. So this is one of the fewer parts of the Quran that talks about Ya'juj and Ma'juj. We don't exactly know who they are. Some say they're a tribe, and that Dhul Qarnayn had built a barrier or a dam for them so they would not harm others. And we understand that at the end of time, this dam will be removed and they will be freed. In how Quran mentions that from every elevation they'll descend. But exactly the entire world, which part of it, what happens exactly, I do not have information of that. واقترب الوعد الحق فإذا هي شاخصة أبصار الذين كفروا يا ويلنا قد كنا في غفلة من هذا بل كنا ظالمين. And when the true promise has approached, this reality that all the prophets have taught us about, that of the day of judgment and the realities of the hereafter, then suddenly the eyes of those who disbelieve will be staring in horror, and those that rejected the truth and they were warned with over prophets and successors of prophets and scholars and mu'mineen, they advised them, the books advised them that there is this day of judgment, be careful, be aware. But it says that those that are disbelieved will be staring in horror and say, Ya waylana, woe upon us. We had been unmindful of this, rather we were wrongdoers. But brothers and sisters, they'll be too late then. When we understand the traditions that people are asleep, an-nasu niyam, people are asleep. إِذَا مَاتُوا انْتَبَهُوا. When they die, they wake up. They put them in the grave, and then the same sheikh that puts them and helps them in the grave, then they say, oh, whatever the sheikh said was true. Oh no, I was rejecting it. I was doubting it. All those verses of Quran, all those narrations. Now he's awake. Now I said, no, I didn't know. Let me come back and give me one more chance. And I will come back, but it is too late then. So tonight we'll talk about the topic of ghafla, being unmindful and being in negligence. One of the problems that we fear that we might have, especially in this day and age, is that we live in a time period where ghafla means you know the truth, you're just forgetting about it all the time. You have put it aside. You're not paying attention for it. You're not working for it, right? When it comes to things that you really like, usually you're not ghafil. Usually you're not unmindful. For example, if you play, for example, the younger kids, and they play video games, usually they don't miss the opportunity when the new one version comes and the new game comes. Usually they know. Or people that like cinema or movies, they're waiting for this release, and then they're not unmindful of that. Or whatever hobbies or whatever interests you have, usually you're not unmindful, you're not forgetful of that. You pay attention to things you like. That's how people are. But if deen and religion does not become ingrained in within our spirit, in our iman, then we'll constantly be forgetting. We're constantly forgetting God, forgetting ourselves, forgetting the day of judgment. And today is one of the worst time periods in terms of being unmindful because of the distractions that we have. They call them weapons of mass distraction. Weapons of mass distraction exist. What are they? The devices. What are they? Going social media, especially now the older generation, and maybe less, but especially the youth. That it is affecting everything in society today. They say that the attention span of people is the TikTok attention span. That you can only speak to people, for example, for 3 minutes, for 60 seconds. And then they want to swipe up and go and ask for someone else to talk to them, for example. So this is, for us, a disaster. And how social media says it brings far people close to you, but it takes close people far. And those that are around you, you don't pay attention, the kids, the family, you're always on the devices, and you say, oh, I wish that I have not been on these devices. I wish I would have paid more attention. Just the fact that many times you meet with people, you see meetings, and they just put a phone down right there in front of you, means that that phone is more important than the meeting that you have. Is it putting in the pocket? The phone is there waiting, some message, something's going to happen. And we all pretend we're like the president, for example, of the country. We're so important that if we don't read that message, right now something terrible is going to happen in the world, even though we really don't have much a position in this world. So this is a reality that everyone is becoming, and you're seeing speakers. We actually had a nice discussion about social media and distractions in the School of City of Knowledge with 4 ulama and scholars about how it works. The positive side of these distractions, I'm going to say the positive, is that as followers of the Prophet and his family, we usually were not giving a good chance to spread our version of the story. When we wanted to debate, they would shut us up. They would kill us, murder us. One of my own teachers, he went, for example, to Ahl Sunnah, to their scholars, said, let me speak for you. He said, we do not want you to speak. He says, let me speak for 30 seconds. And if you hear what I have to say in 30 seconds, then I'll tell you the rest. And I'm not going to say now what he said. But in 30 seconds, he said something so interesting. They said, tell me the rest, tell me the rest. So we did not have this opportunity before to present in this way for the world, our view. We did not have the opportunity to spread the narrations and ahadith of Ali ibn Abi Talib in the family of the Prophet. So for us, it can be very beneficial. True, there's many negatives. It is, unfortunately, it is a part of our life. You cannot say, don't have electricity anymore, don't have social media. I mean, you can limit it, of course, for kids, but the internet and all things are part of our life. The issue we have to realize, it is not a virtual reality. It is reality. It is what the comments you say, what you post, what you do is actually real life. It is being recorded. There's no difference. It's not as if I put a comment on someone's post on social media, it has less, for example, haram in it, as opposed to saying it in person. It's the same thing. There's no virtual reality. It's actually reality. All of it is real. So we have to take advantage of this in aspects of spreading news. When you look at, for example, Gaza and what happened in Palestine, one of the reasons people are saying that they want to ban TikTok is because of the news that it gave compared to legacy media, the information that it gave about Palestine that was not available before. Because before it was just CNN and BBC, or now other, for example, news agencies came in, and they say the version of the story. Like when they, for example, killed so many people in Iraq, possibly 800,000 people they killed in Iraq. How many they starved to death? You didn't see videos and film because we didn't have social media back then. So this is causing people to get away, to not be as unguilty, or to get away with genocide. They will be caught in some way or form. There will be some video, unless even they block, the internet later on, those videos get uploaded. So there are good aspects to it and there are negatives. So the thing that we try to talk about when it comes to about ghafla is that you have to make sure always that you have a type of taqwa that Shahid Mutahari talks about. It is an active taqwa. It is not a passive taqwa. What is a passive taqwa? Passive taqwa means I block everything. I don't go outside of the house. I don't want to see any non-Muslims. I only want to see Muslims that pray Salatul Layl, for example. And I have my own circle. I don't want to see any haram. And then I don't commit any sin. Okay, you won't commit any sin. Very good. But Shahid Mutahari says that is passive taqwa. That is God consciousness, that is passive because you've limited everything. But he says our goal is to reach active taqwa. Means that you don't have to go everywhere and you don't have to meet everyone. But if you're ever faced with a situation where you are in a very bad environment and everyone is against you and everyone is against your message, that you still have taqwa. That is the taqwa that you want, active taqwa. And that also applies in social media, that I have with me, I'm so strong, even though even the scholars that we discussed, some of them, as brothers know, they compared social media to an atomic bomb that is terrible, that there's no way, it doesn't have good side to it, bad side. But it depends on how you use it. But yes, most of the time that people use it, when you really talk about it, doesn't have barakah. It doesn't have barakah, except for me, because a lot of the things that I notice and say, actually, is a lot of the speeches I watch, a lot of it comes from social media and clips that I watch that actually have hadith and tafsir, and it comes right to my house. For example, the newest things that are said, and I look at it, for example. So again, it depends on how you use it. You have to, just like we said, that active taqwa, if you have it, then you can benefit from it in how you want to. And if somebody doesn't, especially in children that are younger, because it's designed by psychologists to be addictive, to in a way have a negative impact, yes, you should limit it for them. But for the adults that I'm talking about, we cannot say that is terribly bad, that it is sharr mutlaq, that is complete evil. So what can we do in this time and age where there are so many distractions? One is that willpower that we should have, and we're hopefully in Shahr Ramadan, we're trying to have this willpower that I will benefit, I will use of things when it benefits me, when if it's for God, for example, even if it's for a little bit of relaxation. But the main issue that we have is that if we have that strong connection to God, and if we examine ourselves, and if you truly love God and love to worship Him, nothing will distract you. Nothing will distract you. One of these, they say a mystic person, they called him in Fars, in Tehran, they call Morshid Cheloui, for example. He was this person who was a Morshid. He had a high level of irfan, they say, and spirituality, and yet he had a restaurant. And some scholar came to visit him, said, I heard a lot about this person. Let me go and visit him. Let me see, is he really what they say about him? He's focused, he's always remembering God. And he comes and sees him in the restaurant, and he's wondering, he sees his restaurant so busy, there's so many people. He's wondering in his mind, how can this guy focus on the dhikr of God when he has so many customers? And he said he saw him, he was scooping the oil, for everyone like this, and he was busy. And the person answers, comes to the scholars, and actually just without him saying anything, comes to him and says that you should not care about how crowded it is around you. You should care how crowded it is in your heart. He told them that. You should care how crowded it is in your heart. If your heart is crowded, if your heart has all these attachments and all these things you love, then you will not focus, even in salat. Can we use the phone during salat? Usually it's something that we don't do. But why are we still distracted in salat? Is it Instagram's fault? Is it TikTok's fault that I don't pay attention to my salat? So actually, when you think of it, it is that connection, because we lack that connection, that preparation to speak to God, because I lacked it, and therefore I come to salat, I'm talking about my own prayer, I don't focus, because I don't have that connection. But how Allama Tabatabai mentions, he says, how can you remember God always? And how can you not have ghafla of Him? He said, look, imagine people that are in love with each other. When they're in love, think of, those are other, when you first got married, for example, you're engaged, and you're just thinking of that person that you're going to marry, you're just married. You go to work, you're thinking about them. You're driving, you're thinking about them. You're trying not to get in an accident because all the little love symbols are in your mind. You can't really drive right. You're intoxicated with love. But you're always thinking of them. At work, the boss is like, focus, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? And you're just like, oh, sorry. So when you love someone, even if you're really busy, you still remember them. You still remember them. And God forbid if somebody who has someone who passed away, their parents, for example. The parents pass away and they miss them. That first 40 days especially, very hard. They're working, they're driving, they're eating, but they're always constantly remembering that marhum, that person that has passed away. They're with them. Well, and this is the same way Allah Tabaraka mentions. وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ. He is with you wherever you are. So you have, because of that intense connection and love, you have that ma'iyat or connection with God. He is with you. Wherever you're at the gym or you're working, you're studying, you're thinking of Allah, you're thinking of His might, you're thinking of His ni'mah, His blessings. You're always saying shukr, alhamdulillah, and you're always working for Him. So the biggest issue we have with ghafla is a lack of love. Because if we truly were to love someone, we would never forget them. How can you forget someone you love? You don't. You don't. So my conclusion is, and it's a sad truth, if we forget about God, I'm telling myself, maybe we don't really love Him. Maybe we truly don't love Him. And we love others. And our idols are other things. For example, other things have become our idols. Dirham and dinar became, for example, our God. Or our stomachs became our God, for example. My lower desires became my God. So in Shahr Ramadan, we're looking for that special connection. We have 2 days left, 2 nights left. And we're trying to change ourselves in a way that we love God, we worship Him, and hopefully we'll have this nur in light that after Shahr Ramadan, you'll continue that connection with God. That special connection you have. And it is very sweet because everything has the color of God. Your work has the color of God in it. Your driving has the color of God. Your relationship, your friendship, your family, everything you're doing, as if there's a Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in it. And life becomes very enjoyable. You're never alone. You're never afraid. You never have huzn, because the Quran mentions that the awliya of God never have huzn, never have grief, never have fear. But the thing is, we are not willing to take that big step and to search for God, to try to find Him, even in Shahr Ramadan. We just want to do the du'as, do the iftar, do the a'mal. As a checklist, I've done this. Okay, it's done. But how Ayatollah Abdul Karim al-Kashmiri mentions, he says, you've been doing these du'as for how many years? How many years have you been reciting the Quran and du'as? How come you're the same person? So hopefully we can do these in a more sincere way, in a more reflective manner, that it actually makes a difference. Few verses about ghafla in the Holy Quran. One is that, what do you forget? Quran mentions that, first of all, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُمْ. 59:19. If you want to ponder about a verse till tomorrow, you can write this down. Think of this verse, 59:19. These two numbers, 59:19. Ayatollah Abdul Karim Kashmiri says, take one verse of Quran, think of it the entire day. Think of it, and then when it becomes iftar, barriers will open up with that verse. Think of this verse. وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ. And be not like those who forgot God. فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُمْ. And He made them forget themselves. So you have two things here. One, don't be like those that forgot God. And when they forgot God, they forgot themselves. God made them forget themselves. Okay, it makes sense. I can forget God. But how can I forget myself? That's confusing. How do I forget myself? Well, who are we? What are we? Who are you? Are you just an animal that just eats and sleeps? Is that what we are? That's what happens when I forget God and I forget myself. That's one explanation. Then now I forgot I'm insan. I forgot I'm a human. I forgot that I have potential. I forgot the purpose of my creation. I forgot that I am the best of God's creation. And yet my life is just like the domestic animals that are being fed and they're being taken care of, and that's it. So we have to rethink this, so that if we forget God, we forget about ourselves. The first thing, brothers and sisters, that we forget is myself, that I am insan. And what does insan do? One of the definitions, even though it's not perfect, has anyone here ever read a definition of what insan is? Maybe in books of logic, or anyone here? What do they remember? Maybe those that were taught ilm al-mantiq. What's the definition of insan? Is the definition of insan? One who forgets? Okay. Okay. No, what the actual insan, if you want to define what are humans? So the logical way, that's the root word, maybe if that's correct. I didn't, but the root, what logicians have understood insan to be, and this is maybe from the ancient Greek, it's in philosophy, it's in logic, is haywanun natiq, is that man is the speaking or thinking animal. Because when you do ta'rif, when you explain something, it has a genus. What is it? It says insan, it's a haywan. Actually, in this definition, it says man is an animal. And then it has a differentia, which separates it from the genus. So you have a gens and a fasl, genus and differentia. The differentia here is animal. Differentia is thinking or speaking. This was the traditional definition of insan. Man is that creature who thinks. Man is that creature who speaks. Because we speak all the time. I observe it the most, mashallah, because I speak a lot myself, and then I notice when people speak, I also notice it too. I always make a joke. I say Allah has one of the miracles of God is this muscle right here. If you want to prove God's existence, it's this muscle. How does it work? It opens up like thousands of times a day when we talk, and it doesn't break. It never breaks. It keeps working and working and working. MashaAllah. Yes?
As you grow older and it gets stronger.
Yes, it gets stronger, mashallah. It gets better and better. They talk more. So you can prove God's existence by the muscles here. And if you look at it, how it's designed, it's very, very beautiful. So some of the scholars did ishkal to this definition because we said that one of the verses of Quran say, do not be like those that forgotten God because they have forgotten themselves. They forgot that they're insan. So they forgot that I have potential and I can think. And I'm mutaharrik bi'iradeh. I can, for example, move by my own will. I move by my rational and intellect. This is the decisions I make are based by the aql and intellect. That's one definition. One of the other scholars says, no, this is not complete. Because this definition, there are also other animals that can speak. If you have to look in today, they're realizing that there's actually creatures, animals, even fish, they say, something that we didn't even think, they communicate to one another. They communicate. So it's not limited to us. There's communication. Actually, when you look at it from the story of Prophet Sulaiman, he has a conversation, he speaks to an ant. Speaks to an ant. It's in the Quran. So therefore, animals, there is a way. How would they do it, we don't know, but they do communicate. They give information to one another. So he says, actually, one of the scholars says the best definition, and this still has some ishkal, because every definition, there is some problems in it. He says, this is a nice way, for example, this is the correct way, is insan is this, al-hayyun, or insan is hayyun muta'allih. Hayyun muta'allih. Mankind is alive. That's his genus, not he's an animal. Animals die, they don't go to the hereafter, right? They might go to the day of judgment, but even if you see the movies, all dogs go to heaven or whatever, it's false. I don't know if there's a hadith that says that. But animals might go to the day of judgment. Maybe, I don't know. As far as we have knowledge, the hereafter is for jinn and ins, for example, to be tested. So one is mankind is hayy. Mankind is alive. What does this mean? It means that when you're born, there's no death for you anymore. You're never going to die. That death that you see is just a transformation from one stage to another stage. From this hayat al-dunya to hayat al-barzakh, to the hayat of the grave. That's life. And from hayat al-barzakh, then you go to the hayat in qiyamah. Then in the qiyamah, you go into heaven and hell. So regardless, now that we're created, we're stuck. And we see in Quran mentions there are those that wish in hell that they would be annihilated, that there be death. ثُمَّ لَا يَمُوتُ فِيهَا. There's no death in hell. وَلَا يَحْيَا. And they will not be born again. Imagine, we have this danger in front of us that if we fail, we will be in hell. We can be in hell forever, and we can't even we can't wish. We can wish it, but it will never be answered. There'll be no death for us, no annihilation. We're stuck. So the first part of insan that we understand is we're always alive. Whatever you do now will affect you forever. Some ask, why is it that heaven and hell last forever? Why is it the effects? You do something in this world, I do dhulm in this world for 5 years. I oppress for 10, 15, 20 years. I do sin 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. But you say I go to hell forever. And one of the answers is because the sin affects the spirit. The sin affects the spirit. And the spirit is forever. You have harmed your spirit, and the spirit will be forever. As if you've, for example, if I right now injure my eye, for example, and I lose, and I become blind, I injured it. There's no way to fix it. It'll always be injured. The same way the soul. So the first thing that we pay attention to that mankind has to remember from ghafla is that we're hayy, we're alive. And whatever you want to do with your life, and if you're going to do good, Quran says, if you're going to do hasana, if you're going to do good, it's for yourselves. You're not going to do anything against God. You're not going to, God forbid, weaken him or cause him to have naqs or insufficiencies. It's for yourself. If you want to do good because you're going to live forever, either you want to have a good end to your life and a good paradise hereafter, or you want to have a bad one, but that's up to you. The second part is muta'allih. Muta'allih means connected to God. Muta'allih means a worshipper of God. Ta'alluh. So the real definition that one of the philosophers gave of insan is he is always alive, and that mankind worships God. Mankind connects to God. And the ability of insan to love God, to worship him, is not seen in the animals. No animal can, for example, even when it comes to fasting, not eat, not drink for God. For God. Which animal do you know does that right now, for example? You put a hungry dog, for example, give him food and says, for God, don't eat it until night. For Allah. So this is our ta'alluh, means the difference between us and other creatures is that what gives us rank and value is our connection to God, our ta'alluh. And what is the main, if you ask the best people that were ever created, who were they? The prophets, the successors. What made them so great? Shahr Ramadan is the month of Imam Ali alayhi salam. What makes Imam Ali so great? What one part of Imam Ali, if you took away from him, he wouldn't have value? His connection to God. His connection to God. That is what makes Imam Ali alayhi salam. That is what makes him so courageous in the battlefield, is that ta'alluh, because he's connected to God. So therefore he has the dhul faqar, and he wins every battle, and he's the champion. Actually, not only that, akrama bihil asakir, I read the tradition, not only is the champion in the battlefield, he gives honor to all the soldiers. Rasulullah says, Imam Ali gives honor to the soldiers, akrama bihil asakir, because that connection to God. What makes him be so generous? What makes him be so compassionate? That connection to God. I said this story and I'll say it again. I'm trying to say, brothers, sisters, that ta'alluh means, that connection to God means that every goodness, every positive attribute that I have comes from God. I said the story, I'll say it again. Prophet Musa alayhi salam saw a child, a mother and a child in a dangerous passage. And the mother was putting herself in harm's way for the child. And Prophet Musa alayhi salam, is said that he asked God to remove your mercy from this mother. Remove that mercy that you have from this mother, for example. And suddenly, when God's mercy was removed, the mercy of the mother and the child was removed too. And the mother puts the child here on the ground and goes. Bye, see you later. I don't care about you. And leaves. And then basically Prophet Musa is amazed, because that mercy that God, that he saw the mother have for that child, actually came from God. It's God's mercy. It's God's mercy. Then he asked for the mother to have mercy again of God, from God. And then she has it, and she takes the child and protects him. So even that mercy that we think is so ingrained, is so fitri, that a mother or father, not always father, obviously fathers love their children too, but of course, the narrations say that heaven is under the feet of the mothers. Heaven is under the feet of the mothers. So that mercy that a mother has for the child is a display, is an extension of the mercy of Allah, is a part of it. So the closer you get to Allah, the more merciful you become. The closer you become to God, for example, the less you have fear, the less grief you have. All these attributes, the more powerful you'll become. All these attributes that we have from Allah, we start to inherit it. So to go back to our topic about ghafla, the first thing that mankind has ghafla of, and today is, who are we? Humans. But the Islamic definition of a human, not the very confused definition of today. They don't know what a human is, what is a male, what is a female. Everyone's confused. Not that definition. The definition between Islam and one of the beauties of this religion is that everything's clear. There's right and wrong. Everything's clear in Islam. There's no ambiguity here. What's that? Everything's defined. Everything's easy, and you just act upon it. There's no confusion. The other part is neglect of the hereafter. We present this verse, and that we forget that there is the day of judgment. And our teacher all the time, especially our akhlaq teacher in the nights of Shahr Ramadan, would say, what would happen if God took us right now? What happens if we died right now? What would you do? This is your last night. What would you do? Would you be happy? Are you ready? Are you ready for it? Or we're not ready. We're always living day by day, and we're not prepared for death because we think that death will always happen later on for me. How many people had an immediate death? They didn't know. Something happened to them. Or they're diagnosed with something, and they had a very short time to live. So we are never guaranteed that we'll live in this world forever. But yet we forget, we think we're going to live forever. We think that death is always for someone else. We talked about these discussions in Yasin about death and the importance of remembering it. That remembering death is not limited to the old. The young also have to remember death. Remembering death and the hereafter doesn't cause me depression, because it just means I'm being prepared for death. When you're prepared for something, it doesn't cause you depression. Remembering death reminds you of where you're going. Everyone needs to know, where are they going? You want to forget about the destination? Then you're not traveling. And therefore, the last is, of course, we forget about Allah. But there's many other things that we forget. And a lot of those, I'll just mention some of them, we'll end tonight. Forgetting our parents, forgetting to do good to our parents. Some people, they fast, they recite Quran, but they even forget to mention their parents, their grandfathers, and give some thawab or have an intention for them. We forget them. And every day the narration says they're waiting for us. They're waiting for us. And some people, they were kind in this world to their parents, but when they passed away, they didn't do anything for them, and they become aq. They just have nothing to do with them. Because one of the fruits of having a child is that they could do something for you. So what kind of kid is this? I took care of him so much. He never forgets me. He always forgets me. He doesn't do anything. He's doing all this reward. Give me some of that reward. Forgetting, for example, our neighbors, forgetting our family members, forgetting the oppressed people, forgetting those that are mahroom, that are in a way deprived. If you really think of it, for a person to be a perfect Muslim, he should never be unmindful of himself, of God, the hereafter, and all the responsibilities that he has. He cannot pick and choose and say, I'm good with my friends, but I forget the family, or I'm just about my family, forget my brothers in Islam. You have to be mindful of everyone, and that is the person that in Shahr Ramadan really benefits as a person that is mindful of God, himself, God, the hereafter, and all the duties that they have to perform. And the last is they're mindful of the Imam of the age, of Imam Mahdi. That hopefully days do not go past, especially Shahr Ramadan, that you forget Imam Mahdi, you forget to make dua for him, you forget to work for him, to have your intention, you forget that connection to him, to talk to him. Because Shahr Ramadan is also the month that you remember the Imam of the time, as we have the dua of iftitah that we read every night. May Allah make us, inshallah, of those that it always remembers, our mutadhakkir, that we're always reminded of our duties, reminded of our beliefs. May Allah separate us from ghafla, inshallah. Many people ask for special du'as. May Allah, because of the Prophet and his noble family, inshallah, answer their prayers and their requests. Give shafa to all of those that are in need, that need shafa, and bless the souls of our marhumeen. And inshallah, make us of the true companions of the Imam of the age with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Do ziyarat of Warith, inshallah. The announcement is that you're going to do ziyarat Warith. Should we do it? Okay. Do you have any questions? I think everyone is just trying to. There's no questions? You have a question?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm at, they won't allow me to. They want to drill me every night. So. Sorry. Hajj Abbas, if I know the answer. Should I turn on my internet or no? Google?